Guys, I've got a train of thought that I'd like you to follow me on just very quickly. In this iPad Go video, we know that the first word that we can make out is uranium, and we've been looking for any events involving uranium, and we're expecting, some form of like a nuclear attack where maybe uranium's detected. But what if it's in line with like the stock market news and the war coverage news? It's more like uranium news. I don't know if that's what it's referring to, but we certainly have had the uranium one deal pop up again. Um, Apparently, Jeff Sessions is looking to revive the probe on the uranium one deal. Excuse me, 1 second. An FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's ties to the deal has found no wrongdoing. That was a previous investigation they'd done. But the Justice Department is reviving an inquiry into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the government's controversial approval of the Uranium One deal. And that report has come out yesterday on the 21st, which again kind of falls in line with the timing of the video, referring to like 21, 22, 23, possibly even further than that. As I said, I'll be looking until the end of the month. But considering the timing of where it says 21 and we're expecting some sort of uranium event, it could be possible that it's just the Uranium One news popping up again. It's been quiet for a good long while, and here it comes again on the 21st of December, of all days. So we'll be watching that closely to see if that evolves into anything further. But I just wanted to kind of point that out because I think it may be important. The second thing I wanted to point out very quickly is going back to this LC on the floor. It's a source of consternation, I tell you. This is where we kind of try and break down what it's saying here. I still believe that the still Bitcoin is a possible interpretation, just because the North Koreans stealing Bitcoin only popped up in the last couple of days, just a few days before the 21st. So it again fits in with that kind of timeline. If that is what it's saying, then it would, make a bit of sense there. What I really wanted to point out here is I've mentioned that I believe this scene has something to do with the UN, just because, for one thing, is the shape here, crescent moon, letter C. I also think it does have the same shape as the UN desk, and it could also be interpreted as a U. Obviously, I don't think it is actually a U, but it could be interpreted as a U. The other thing that draws me to this is the X and the 5 here, the 15 on the floor here. This United Nations Security Council is made up of 15 members. The General Assembly has over 193 members, or I think it's 193 members, but the Security Council is just 15 members, and we have the number 15 here. And again, I referred in another video to the way that the seed stems kind of link together and produce this flower, which kind of links to a water kind of event. But at the same time, the United Nations flag, I think I've got it here. Yeah, the United Nations flag kind of has that same kind of thing, like two things joining together and then something coming out the middle. Obviously, it's not a lotus or lily flower. It's kind of like a map of the world. But you can see if it's that symbology, then it could be kind of interpreted as that. What I really wanted to get into is, let me get rid of that, is the UN is voting today, which is the 22nd of December, to go again for North Korea with sanctions targeting oil. Now, North Korea has said if there's a naval blockade or more sanctions, that would be, a cause for war for them. They said that many times on many different subjects and red lines they've drawn, which have been crossed on both sides for Donald Trump and for Kim Jong-un. But we don't know if he's serious this time. On the 24th of December is his late grandmother's birthday, and reports are saying that he hates Christmas. So it could be that he does something on Christmas Eve or on Christmas Day, um, which causes this provocation. It could be even sooner than that, um, considering the UN is voting today, Friday, on this resolution. We know that often after the sanctions are applied or voted on, North Korea, their state media comes out with some bellicose statement from Kim Jong-un talking about destroying the US and stuff like that. And I'm expecting that something like that will happen again. But whether something follows after that is what I'm not sure of. But the UN Security Council will vote today on a US drafted resolution ramping up sanctions on North Korea by restricting oil supplies. And we know when it comes to the oil, that's when war kind of really gets serious. And the oil supplies are vital for Pyongyang's missile and nuclear programs. The United States presented the draft resolution Thursday, that was yesterday, following negotiations with China, Pyongyang's ally, on new punitive measures in response to North Korea's test of an intercontinental ballistic missile on November the 28th, which is actually November the 29th. It would be the third raft of sanctions imposed on North Korea this year, and comes as the United States and North Korea are showing no signs they are willing to engage in talks to end the crisis on the Korean Peninsula. Diplomats said they expected the measure to be adopted during the meeting scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. UK time, GMT time. Japan's ambassador Koro Bisho, who holds the council presidency, said Japan supports the draft resolution wholeheartedly and voiced hope that there will be unanimous support. Building on previous resolutions, the new draft tightens restrictions on crude and refined oil deliveries to North Korea, most of which are supplied by China. So this will need China to get on board in order for these resolutions to actually take place. The permanent members of the UN Security Council, China, Russia, France, the UK, and the US, they have veto power in these kind of things. So the USA has been lobbying China with this new resolution on the oil to see if they will support it. We have no idea if China have said yes or no, but they're going ahead with the vote tomorrow, so it's possible China have said yes, but we'll find out tomorrow, roughly around 1 p.m. The reports will probably come out an hour later or something like that, so I'll be looking for that around 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow. But the measure would ban the supply of nearly 90% of refined oil products to North Korea and order the repatriation of all North Korean nationals working abroad within 12 months, according to the text obtained by the AFP. So, along with the 90% refined oil, they're also looking to basically send all North Korean nationals back to North Korea within a 12-month period. I think that will really annoy Kim Jong-un and possibly cause some sort of provocation to come from him. If it's not a provocation, then maybe a real world event may take place. The US President Donald Trump asked Chinese President Xi Jinping last month to cut off oil to North Korea, a move that would deal a crippling blow to its desperately struggling economy. Tens of thousands of North Koreans have been sent to Russia and China to earn hard currency for Pyongyang, working in what UN right officials have described as slave-like conditions. The draft resolution would cap crude oil supplies to 4 million barrels per year, and deliveries of refined petroleum products, including diesel and kerosene, would be capped at 500,000 barrels per year. Countries would be required to notify the United Nations of their oil shipments to North Korea. Since September last year, North Korea has carried out a nuclear test, its sixth, and a series of advanced missile launches, which are banned under UN resolutions. So I'm just going to stop there because obviously you can get the gist of the report. This is basically, we're looking for the UN meeting tomorrow. As I said, I think that the UN has something to do with the IPEC goat video. Whether that's a correct interpretation is always up for negotiation, up for speculation. And, obviously I have no idea if it's correct, because the only way to find out if it's correct is if something happens. And obviously we are praying that nothing does. So hopefully our prayers, override whatever they've got planned. But they've been planning it for a long time, because when we look at the next story, this one came out last year, but I'm only kind of getting wind of it now, which is the massive staging of UN vehicles in Maryland. And they've got basically like a whole unit of vehicles, and I'm suspecting that this is not the only place they've got them. This is in Maryland. This was detected by a citizen there, and it's citizen Danny West, and that was back on July 13th, 2016, so last year. And this was a report that said that Obama issued an executive order allowing the United Nations to use force upon US citizens. And after reading that, I obviously checked out where Maryland is, because I'm not from the United States, so I had to just check it out. And it's basically like a 3.5 hour drive, or 4.5 hour drive, depending on your route. But obviously, if you're an emergency vehicle or the United Nations or a military vehicle, you can probably get down this road much, much faster. So, if anything happens in New York, where the United Nations Security Council, basically the headquarters of the United Nations, is in New York, if anything happens there, I believe that would allow the United Nations to take some form of control in that situation. So I've started looking at the UN resolutions, and Article 24, in order to ensure prompt and effective action by the United Nations, its members confer on the Security Council primary responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security, and agree that in carrying out its duties under this responsibility, the Security Council acts on their behalf. In discharging these duties, the Security Council shall act in accordance with the purposes and principles of the United Nations. The specific powers granted to the Security Council for the discharge of these duties are laid down in chapters 6, 7, 8, and 11. I think that's 11, sorry, 12. The Security Council shall submit annual and, where necessary, special reports to the General Assembly for its consideration. The part of this report, Article 24, that stood out to me was Article 24.2. In discharging these duties, the Security Council shall act in accordance with the purposes and principles of the United Nations and the specific powers granted to it under these chapters. So I checked out Chapter 7. I checked all the chapters, but Chapter 7 stood out to me. This is Article 39. The Security Council shall determine the existence of any threat to the peace, breach of the peace, or act of aggression, and shall make recommendations or decide what measures shall be taken in accordance with Articles 41 and 42 to maintain or restore international peace and security. So I went ahead and checked out Article 41 and 42. Article 41 says the Security Council may decide what measures not involving the use of armed force are to be employed to give effect to its decisions, and it may call upon the members of the United Nations to apply such measures. These may include complete or partial interruption of economic relations and/or rail, sea, air, postal, telegraphic, radio, and other means of communication, and the severance of diplomatic relations. So they've got all that power to do all those things, but this is not involving the use of armed force. That's where Article 42 comes in. Article 42 says, should the Security Council consider that measures provided for in Article 41 would be inadequate or have proved to be inadequate, it may take such action by air, sea, or land forces as may be necessary to maintain or restore international peace and security. Such action may include demonstrations, blockade, and other operations by air, sea, or land forces of members of the United Nations. So basically, in sign up to United Nations Security Council, they've given blanket authority, all the countries that are involved have given blanket authority to the United Nations as a body to undertake military action against whoever they deem military action needs to be taken against. This particular article, Article 42, gives the UN the authority to take action by air, sea, or land in order to maintain or restore international peace and security. That's important because if anything does happen in New York and the UN is affected, the UN already has blanket authority to take either non-military action, as described in Article 41, where it says not involving the use of armed force. But if they deem that Article 41 is inadequate in any way, then they can go on to Article 42, which gives them the authority to use military action. And I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention because everything, as I keep saying, everything seems to be linking together. And the United Nations is a suspect group if I've ever heard of one. The fact that they've got units stored in Maryland and probably in other locations around the United States just says to me that there there's something that they're waiting for. Something that they're waiting for. You don't spend millions of dollars on building military vehicles unless you're, I mean, look at them. They're like armored Humvee vehicles. They've got storage tanks and stuff there. So, and this is being shared with Kellogg's, and apparently Kellogg's donates to George Soros, and I haven't gotten into all the Soros business there. I'm assuming it's something similar to like the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, and all the other organizations out there. But the fact that they have these vehicles ready to go, not too far away from New York, just a 3.5 hours drive, and they've already got blanket authority to use military force to return the peace and security, just goes to show that these people are definitely part of whatever is to come. Most definitely. How they're involved in the beginning, I have no idea. That remains to be seen. But the fact that they can get involved because they have the authority to do so, just is worth reporting, I think. So that's it for my report for you guys today. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and God bless you all.